Good morning. I am the Joonho, CSO of Huawei Technologies. I think the Huawei has been well known, especially it has been covered in the news outlets because of the China, the US conflicts. However, there are unknown facts about Huawei as well. So Huawei, the revenue is a huge, and compared to 260 trillion won in Samsung's revenue, so we are generating revenue of 150 trillion of won, providing the IT service equipment, the network equipment, and we used to manufacture some mobile phone and customary products. And speaking of relationship between Korea and Huawei Technologies, the Huawei business actually is being stagnant because of a Korea a China-US conflict, but the 12 to the 14 the trillion the one of worth of product a supply has been recorded from China to Korea, of Huawei to Korea. I am CSO at Huawei Technologies in Korea. The CISO is a term we use in Korea to refer to the security officers. And the CSO organization is independent in Huawei Technologies, and the British executive, John Spocker, is leading the organization. And we do not have all the offices of a CSO. However, in major countries, we have CSO organizations, and what CS organization does is to have an independent center that oversees product security. So at our CSO organization, we have an independent lab. If issues are detected, it is reported to the head of the CSO, and no-go that can be declared by the person. No-go means that the product cannot be released because of the quality issues. I'm going to talk about the NESAS Network Equipment Security Assurance Scheme as a new mobile standard. So in the English speaking world, it's called the NESAS or NESAS, and I'm going to call it NESAS. I'm going to give you the overview of the NESAS and how evaluate based on this scheme. When we transition from the LTE to 5G, a lot of security efforts have been made, especially because of a dispute between the US and China. So one of the consideration we are making is to network equipment assurance. So in terms of NESAS, their scope is to provide assurance for the network and the equipment, and the overseeing the bodies are GSMA and the 3GPP. So there are two governing bodies, and let me talk about GSMA. The GSMA is the GSM Association. So it's a group of the mobile communication provider, and 400 or so network and software companies are participating, and more than the 750 providers are participating. And every February, they gather in the Barcelona, Spain for Mobile World Congress, and MWC is also organized by GSMA. And another governing body is 3GPP, and as a third generation partnership project, we are using 5G mobile phones, and we have a memory of using 3G phones, and there were three standards at the time. As you see from the slide, we used to use a GSM, WCDMA, and all these standards were established by 3GPP. And it's a group of standardization organization, and so one of the member is the Korea's CATI. It's a standardization. The body in Korea is participating as a organization, the partner, and also as companies, the Nokia, Samsung, and many others. A total of 700 electronics and telecommunications makers are participating in 3GPP. So these two governing bodies established this scheme, and what's the background of the NESAS? There was a need for 5G security, and the people ask for the how to standardize the assurance and the testing procedures, and the network equipment security had to be evaluated with some measures, and the measures should be consistent and stringent. And since we are talking about the network equipment, we need an independent and high quality test laboratories that can provide assurance. Another important requirement was cost effectiveness. If the cost is high, it demotivates manufacturers to participate. It should be cost effective and timely, as well as the speed. So GSMA established a test methodology, and 3GPP established security assurance specifications for SCAS. Before NESAS, there were similar standards. One of them was CC, Common Criteria, and the Huawei obtained the CC certification, and it was reported in the media as well. And the US TCSEC, European ITSEC, and Canadian CTCPE had different standards. So the need for standardization emerged. So it's an international standard established to cross-certify information security products and services. If the sensors are different among countries, it's going to be complicated to obtain the new certification and assurance to export. So we had a CC, common criteria, and if you look at so many global products and solutions, and they are CC certified. So IT hardware, firmware, and software, and other IT product are subject to the CC, and so it's one of the security assurance method. And Huawei obtained the CC certification, and EAL4 Plus certification was obtained in Huawei. And however, it takes some time to obtain certification, and the certification needs to be updated every 2 years, and there are a lot of steps that to be taken to get certified. So NESAS as emerging as an alternative for mobile network, and the NESAS is so twofold, because two governing bodies established the scheme. The first part is a product development and life cycle process assessment. So the first one is a process, and the second is a lab accreditation. So it is used to accredit the test laboratories, and if there are disputes, the GSMA tries to resolve a dispute. 3GPP is covering the technical part. So it defines the security assurance specification, or SCAS. So SCAS is defined by the 3GPP. So summarizing, I've just explained is, so this is a role of NESAS, GSMA, and the 3GPP. The GSMA defines a NESAS specification, and 3GPP check the SCAS requirements and the test methodology. So many global companies have been obtained a NESAS certification in October 2019. NESAS version 1.0 was released, and Ericsson, Nokia, and GTE followed after Huawei completed NESAS audit. And there was two important things in NESAS the certification. First part was a process audit. It is called the NESAS, and the equipment testing is called SCAS. So Huawei completed the NESAS audit for Huawei G5G substations and LTE base stations. And what's interesting was Samsung Electronics finally joined the NESA's effort in June 2021. Samsung Electronics completed the audit recently. Then we expect that Samsung Electronics will start the SCAS testing process. This is a comparison between NESAS and CC. Put it simply, so NESAS is a optimized scheme for mobile network security, and NESAS has two process auditing organizations and 7 test labs. And for CC, globally, there are 77 laboratories globally. However, there are differences between the two, and NESAS has advantage in terms of time taken for evaluation. There are benefits of NESAS. I already explained all the benefits, and basically, so NESAS is optimal standards for mobile network, and the auditing organizations and the governing organizations includes GSMA and 3GPP. And you can just refer to the remaining text in your own, but effective audit and evaluations are supported by the NESAS scheme. So I gave you the brief overview of NESAS. Then moving on, I'm going to talk about how to evaluate the NESAS. So maybe the I think that you obtained the ISO 17270 or many other security related certification, and basically the methodology is similar. And as the first step, you need to go through the development and product lifecycle process audit. So again, it is usually called a NESAS. And the second phase is a security test of a network equipment, and it's called a SCAS. And if you pass the 2 tests, then you complete the NESAS certification. And audit is similar to ISO 17271 or many other security-related certification. So you need to get assurance by proving your security level, and SCAS requirements need to be met, and vulnerabilities have to be tested in the second phase of the certification. Audit and test have some standards in GSMA. If you go to the homepage of GSMA, you will find the NESAS standards in 2015. So the version 1.0 was released, and the current version was 2.0. You have the 4 standards, and SCAS is specified in 3GPP. And who is doing what? This is a process audit, and process audit is conducted by the GSMA accredited body, and one is the NCC of the UK, and the other is Germany's the ISEC. And the test laboratory is approved by GSMA. I'm going to explain what test laboratories that exist in the world in my later slides. And CC, and it has a 2 years update requirement, but we don't have a update or a certification renewal requirement for NESAS for now. So you can find the structure in GSMA homepage, and you can find the overview of NESAS. And on the left-hand side, you can check the network equipment security assurance scheme, especially accreditation requirement process, and In the middle, you can find the vendor development, product lifecycle requirements, and accreditation process. Then you can also refer to this dispute resolution process. It looks complicated, but this basically set forth the requirements needed for process audit, including the audit trails, the source code review, source code governance, source code management, and you have to prove how the security activities are conducted. Vulnerability information management is checked, and processes for vulnerability remedy, and what the quality assurance that activities are executed are checked, and integrity check, automation, and these kind of requirements are checked in the process audit. Process audit follows these procedures. It's not different from other types of security-related audits. Once the application is submitted, then documents are required and exchanged between a vendor and the auditing organization. An on-site audit starts, and it takes about 4 days to ensure whether the submitted documents have the correct information through on-site inspection and NESAS certification. The committee is held and the documents are open to the audit members. I said there were two parts in NESAS and SCAS. So I just covered the process audit, which is called NESAS after the process audit. So it's time to test the network equipment for security evaluation, and the auditing organization are not testing equipment. Test labs are conducting security evaluation, and they have to obtain the ISO 17025, and it's about the test lab requirements. And not just the test lab should have an ISO certification, they have to prove the testing capability and the equipment in line with the GPP, SCAS, and GSMA NESA standards. Then network equipment is evaluated, and the standards is a SCAS for the product testing, and usual scope is the same as that of a CC and PP. And additionally, so you need to have the requirements for security features and the BVT basic vulnerability testing requirements. And the test is based on 3GPP SCAS and 4G and 5G specifics are considered for these SCAS standards on top of the usual security evaluation standards. On the left-hand side, so you can see a TR 33926 threat analysis. This is a well-known concept including spoofing, tampering, service denial. Basic threats are added by general SCAS requirements, including the data information protection, protecting availability and integrity, as well as specific requirements for mobile network. This is a network equipment security evaluation procedure, and you have to submit the NESAS assurance in order to receive security evaluation. And the test lab ensures that the products are effective, and the instantiation evaluation is conducted, and based on that, the security compliance testing and basic vulnerability testings are conducted, and if the tests are passed, then the reports are issued for certification. So I explained of what NESAS looks like and how evaluation is conducted. So why do we need such scheme? 5G equipment security is raising a lot of concerns, so there was a need for standardized assurance scheme, but we don't have many examples yet. But however, we can find some in EU. In EU, 5G the security has been maximized by introducing 5G toolbox. It was introduced in 2020 and EU. So many are concerned about security threats against the 5G networks. So 5G toolbox was introduced to check the level of cybersecurity, and the EU Commission is requiring the vendor evaluation. So it's a set of measures to evaluate 5G related vendors. So 5G toolbox include 8 strategic measures, 11 technical measures, and 10 supporting actions, as well as a planning methodology. So what's the role of 5G toolbox in Europe? So you take Europe as a whole instead of individual countries, and you want to secure the security of a 5G network. So it is inducing the cooperation between the different mobile network providers, and the complicated 5G network. 5G network can use the 5G toolbox to standardize the security assurance. And in Europe, there is CSA, Cybersecurity Act, that requires all the EU, the member countries, to issue cybersecurity certificates. The toolbox is a mitigation measures for security threats against the EU's 5G network, and TM09, the EU certification, is required for 5G network, and you will need a methodology to prove. So NESAS CCS, the cybersecurity certification system. So NESAS CCS was established in Europe as a alternative method for 5G network security, and it has been pushed hard by BSI, the Germany's Federal Cybersecurity Authority. In EU, the NISCG group is a functioning, is short for Network Information Security Cooperation Group, and NISCG subgroup has been established in line with the EU 5G toolbox, and this group consists of intelligence bodies of European countries, and you can think of a KISA, Korea Internet and Security Agency in Korea, and this group is encouraging the cooperation with the GSMA and 3GPP and the EU. NISCG group is encouraged to cooperate with the GSMA and 3GPP, and it demonstrates the intention to introduce NESAS in Europe. In February 2021, 5G standards proposal was requested, and NESA is preparing an alternative solution, and a lot of commissions are set up to introduce new measures. So the new committee, a new group was formed, engaging a lot of stakeholders, including consulting standardization bodies, and NESAS is being suggested by the ad hoc working group. So that was information of NESAS, and I explained how it is being used in EU to protect the 5G network. So summarizing my talk, I'm going to show you the NESAS ecosystem. It consists of So network operators, equipment vendors, auditing organizations, and government bodies, and five vendors, major vendors are all participating. And this year, the Samsung joined the efforts. Then, as a result, so five major mobile network equipment vendors are participating, and I mentioned so seven labs and two governing bodies are participating, and and if you look at the test labs, the CAICT has two certifications, and Germany's BSI is leading to effort to introduce NESAS as a basic solution for EU 5G security certification. However, there's a long way to go for NESAS to fully bloom. And if you look at the assurance level in the EU Cybersecurity Act, still NESAS is remaining in the basic level. And sometimes the internal evaluation is submitted and the externally audited results are submitted, but eventually it should be the third-party evaluation and auditee, and to reach the higher level and the national the security standards level should be reached to enhance the level of a NISAS. However, if you look at the official statement of the GSMA, it says that it is trying to improve the NISAs iteratively, and in Germany, the German government is saying that NISAs will further evolve to fulfill the high-level requirement. So I prepared a short video clip summarizing the NISAs before concluding my talk. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the end of my presentation.